Going to go ahead and get started. So you're in Designing the Ultimate 10-Foot Experience. My name's Eddie Mays. I'm the Senior Design Manager for Xbox. I've been working at Microsoft for about 17 years. Since 2007, I was actually on the core design group that launched NXE, Kinect, and then Xbox One. And then more recently, what I'm doing is I'm super passionate about app development on the Xbox platform. I work with third-party partners, and I help onboard them. I also work with the developer tools in terms of ADK, XDK, templates, samples, things of that nature. So today what we're going to be going through is I'm going to talk a little bit about the design language and the journey on how we got to kind of a modern UI. I'll talk about the power of one. If you listen to the keynote and some of the other speakers that have been here, you hear about how one, you can build once and it'll basically go to multiple clients within our ecosystem. I want to talk a little bit about, that's really interesting to talk about that, but the reason why I'm here is I want to kind of call out some of the design considerations. I'll talk about user expectations for the TV, 10-foot design considerations, and then I'll give you a little peek at what our team's working on as to what's next and what's coming. So I kind of want to start with this. Designers love developers. I don't speak for myself. I think in our group, we truly love developers. We know that great experiences can only happen with a good connection between a designer and a developer. I kind of think about it as like milk and cookies or peas and carrots, however you want to think about that. But what I really want to share with you is that when design and development is done right, it has the power to evoke emotion. And at Xbox, we really care about evoking that emotion. And so when I wake up in the morning and I go to work, it's really about making people feel. And that really gets me excited. So I wanted to kind of start with this picture because I think we've shown this a lot. When people see this picture, it gives the impression that Microsoft has their act together. It's like, it looks really cool. Everybody's using one language. The reality is that it took a lot of vision, perseverance, and a slew of designers at Microsoft to make sure that this happened. I want to give credit to a guy's initials, BW. I won't share his name, but he was really one of the guys that actually inspired the whole movement behind Metro Modern UI. So as I go through this talk, I'll unpack what's going on from a design perspective, the brand language, how we got there as a company, and then while things look aligned on the surface, I'll get into a little bit of the detail about what's happening underneath. So how do we get here? This is a fun story because, like I said, I've been here 17 years, so I got to firsthand kind of watch how we moved from Windows 3.1 to something where we were really excited. I'm sure you guys have seen this. It took the world by storm, very cool. But when you look at it from a design perspective, the language that was established here was all about the Chrome. I mean, it's all about the Chrome, right? So you look at the lines, and it's all about the icons, and there's not really any content there. And so we didn't really have a strategy around that, but it was still really cool. So moved to 95, moved to 95 through 98, not much movement here. We added things like, signature elements like the start button and, the task tray. Some cool things going on, but it's still, still focused on the Chrome. And so this is when it starts to get fun because we introduce a set of other devices. We've got the Pocket PC that, landed on the market. And then between the Pocket PC and the Windows 98 or XP, they really did try to align between those two devices. But then you've got Xbox. And so Xbox dropped. And for me, the first version was really cool. The green wormhole, it added motion that you kind of went through. But an extremely different brand language, different brand philosophy. And so you can see as a company, we were kind of moving in different directions. From 2002 to 2005, we added Windows Media Center. That was serving up 10-foot experiences. They were leveraging the look and feel of Windows XP. And then we dropped in a new device called Zune. And so this is when BF really took a lot of his philosophy and thinking into a particular device. When it first launched, though, you see that it still was leveraging the Windows 98 design, and that would change shortly after. Xbox launched again, and we launched with the software for 360. We called it Blades. And again, I'm looking from a design perspective at all three of these, and we're still all over the map when it comes to moving together as one as a company. You look at the blades, and you see one tile there, two tiles. It's really not about the content or what we're giving to users. It's about our aesthetic and our design, and designers are really excited about that. But so then, 2006 to 2008, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Vista. Vista took it to a whole new level, right? So it was all about Chrome, all about glass, emulating kind of the physical, other materials. And then, so again, Zune was like, hang on a second here. Let's be a little bit different. Let's go back to the roots of great design. And so that's when you see them start to introduce type as graphic, graphics, iconography, space, just things that True Design had done over the years. And then Xbox was, as a group, we were closely attached at this point internally with Zune and Xbox. It was one team. And so on our side of the fence, really what we said is, okay, hang on a second here. Let's be about content, not Chrome. And so then you see the introduction of the tiles. We used the landscape and was really about like, let's see if we can get users right into the content and let them see what they're getting and go from there. But still, distinctly different UIs. And so Metro was ignited at that point. There was a movement inside the culture, inside the design culture, to really make Microsoft be different. And so we had a unified vision around type, graphic, motion, sound. Because the thought was that if we could come together on these things, we could scale globally, we could increase design efficiencies across the company, and then we could raise the design bar and really have something that felt true to what Microsoft was. So if you're not familiar with what Metro is, it's really, the spirit of Metro design language draws on the things that are already around us. We're using mental models in the way that people navigate through life in general. And so the signage that helps guide us in airports, train stations, city streets, freeways, and that's really where it starts. That's the spirit of Metro, or modern UI, I should say. And so I'll quickly kind of go through these slides, but there's kind of three key elements: type, graphic, and motion. And so I just wanted to show a few slides around type. That's one of the cornerstones of how we think about how to express our language. We believe in clear hierarchy. Design serves the content, clear typography, classic information design, and then really we're not trying to emulate the physical. And so just to give a quick example, I wanted to call out what we were doing in XP. It was pretty funny, right? So this is one screen, set of windows opened up, and we had 4 different fonts between the same UI. So we got Trebuchet up in the top header, Sans in the, in the folders, Tahoma's in there, Franklin Gothic, which was also our kind of box brand language. And so you look at that and you're kind of like, whoa, okay, you guys need to get your act together. So we did. Segoe UI is the only typeface that we use at this point. We've got a bunch of different weights and font sizes. We really use that one font to ensure consistency across our products. And there's a lot of efficiencies that come with that. So in terms of file size, not having to work too hard to know which font you're using, not to have to communicate it, limiting the variation. So I want to talk a little bit about graphics. Really, what we believe is that the content is the hero. The content is the UI. The box art should be what you click on to actually get engaged. So I can talk about the opposite side, and so we believe that don't round your corners. Don't embellish on the images. Keep things flat if you can. Keep things crisp, not blurry. Are there any designers in the room by a show of hands? Do you guys remember Gaussian blur? Oh my goodness, right? It seemed like there was a period of time there with Gaussian blur. It's a filter in Photoshop that you can actually use to do interesting things with images if you're not a designer. But it seemed like that was taking over the world. I couldn't go to a website, couldn't see anything without Gaussian blur or some interesting background behind it. And so yeah, full bleed on the images and things like that. And so when you look at what we did for Zune HD, you kind of see that realized, where you see, interesting type as graphic to kind of help you navigate. You see, square tiles and the contents right there. And easily you can see if you can navigate to A, B, C, or if you're going through a list. And so then I want to get back to our timeline. Between 2009 and 2012, we really started to align as a company. You can kind of see our products start coming together. I didn't show Windows here, but I did want to show Windows Phone. And you see that for Xbox, we went to Modern UI as well. And so then you start seeing our products start to come along as a family. So now, when you talk about one, it's interesting I think it's critical to understand that one means a lot of things, but as a company, cross-group, we had a language that we could move cross-group, cross-discipline, cross-release, and cross-platform to where we really looked unified. And I think that's, a lot of times, that's a starting point. And so I feel really good about that. And so then when you see this, then you kind of understand that it was a journey. We weren't always there, but I think that as we move forward, you're starting to kind of feel some of the things that we're trying to do from a design perspective and a code perspective. And so as I lead in Design Loves Developers, you kind of see how we're all coming together as one. So I want to talk about the power of one, and really what that means. It might be a little small. Designers love small type. Sorry about that. I wanted to focus on one. So one modern UI, one information architecture, one application code, and one UI framework, and you essentially can go to our set of devices. But it wouldn't be right for me not to call out that optimizing for each form factor is important for the user experience. You can't take blankly a Windows application and apply it to Xbox. And I'll get into some of the TV considerations and the high bar that users expect for TV. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. But here's some things you should think about. Device capabilities, the feature set. One thing I can call out is like the right click. If you think about the desktop, we don't really have that on the Xbox. It's a different kind of interaction model. Think about environmental factors. With a phone, you're on the go. It's made, for different types of uses. Where you're at home, you expect to be laying back, you're on your couch, you're chilling with your family, things like that. Input modes. So if you've got touch on your mobile devices, but on the Xbox, you've got gesture and voice that are really some of the key input models that we like to use. And there's other things. I can keep going on, but what I want to do is kind of call out the three kind of key areas. And so for the phone, you're on the go. It's 1 to 2 feet away. In terms of your input modes, you've got touch and voice. For your PCs, your desktops, you're 2-3 feet away potentially. You've got your mobile and desktop, and you got touch, voice, but you've also got mouse and keyboard, which is interesting as we think about that. And then for Xbox and for TV, it's all about the 10-foot view. It should be very personal. We use the inputs are control remote, gesture, voice, and then we've even included smart glass into that equation, which kind of ties those last two together. So I wanted to give an example of an app that really has embraced thinking about those considerations across all three devices. When you look at Netflix, they've done a great job on the mobile device. They've done a great job on the tablets, and then I've worked personally with them on the Xbox, and so it's really interesting to see what they've done from a 2-foot to a 10-foot experience. Now, this is with the code actually not aligning. They're doing a lot of different things there, and so we'll work to get there. But that's really what I wanted to call out, is that they're doing a great job of looking at all of the considerations across devices. So I'm going to spend a little time talking about the high expectations for TV. Users have a much higher bar for the experiences that happen on the television. They expect animation, they expect simplicity, they expect to be fed. the level of polish and entertainment value. I guess the way I should say it is that they expect a little bit more polish than you would expect from a Windows app coming into their living room. And so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the TV being a focal point for the home. Physically, it's central. The size and the always-on nature make it a logical place for sharing information, having parties throughout the day, sharing with friends. Cognitively, people think of it as the master of all screens. So it's the big boy, right? And I want to say that Xbox is great for deploying, TV-relevant apps and features. So unlike PCs, tablets and phones, consumers expect a constant stream of relevant information coming to the TV. And so I've got a caution in my notes here because I want to make sure that I make a point of this. Taking an app from Windows to Xbox may not hit that. Like if you take it just, what should I say? If you just take it word for word, if you take it from one to the other without making any of those considerations or changes, it may not hit user expectations for TV. And so I just want to make sure I made that point. So yeah, we talked about expectations are high, and as I started thinking about the expectations here, something popped into my mind, and so I'm going off script here. But the thing is that how many football fans do we have out there? I'm a huge football fan, so if you know anything about football, it's a different experience when you actually watch it in the house opposed to when you actually go to the game. When you go to the game, it's very cool. But at home, what they've done is they've made it the experience so good at home at watching a game that you don't necessarily, you almost are conflicted to actually watch it in the stadium. And so they're starting to have issues with, getting people butts in seats in the stadiums. And so I was thinking about why. And so when I was talking with my wife, because she actually goes to the games with me sometimes, what occurred to me is that she said, well, I can't understand, when we were at the game, she's like, I don't know where the first down is. And so when we started talking about it, I realized at home, there's all these other elements. They've got commentators talking to you. She's taking in more information at home than she would at the game, even though, I'm there and I guess I'm not that much of help. But there's this thing that they show on the screen. So if you're trying to get a first down, what they do is they show you a yellow line actually superimposed on the television. And so all of those little things actually go into making that a really good experience for users. And so we may reach a day that, folks may not even go to the games because the in-home, you're sitting there, you got your chips, you got your wings, you're with your family, you're with your friends, you don't have to drive to the stadium, you don't have to spend money, prices are outrageous. Anyway, you kind of get where I'm going. So anyway, the expectations are high on the TV. So one of the things I want to call out is that this particular screen is users watching the game. You see that we can offer up related info like stadium size. All of these things make the experience better for users. Context. Users expect a high level of context on the TV. What we want to focus on is trying to keep it relevant, keep users engaged for a wide variety of users. Here's one of the big things is they don't want to be interrupted. So when you think about notifications and how that stuff happens, users don't want to be interrupted. Another piece is that they want to be safe. Users have concern about inappropriate content being showed in the wrong place, wrong time. And consumers expect an implied promise of a smart TV to avoid those problems for them. So social and communications are key. What's important is who's sharing the experience in real time in the same room, and we talked a little bit about that. And then who's sharing the experience 100 miles away. So those are really important for TV watchers. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to share a video from our team, a couple design leads, and they talk about how we approach designing for the Xbox.
One of the things that we strive to do at Microsoft is to bring a design language to our products that's very consistent.
With Xbox One, our goal is to create the best experience for your living room. To develop an amazing product, you can only accomplish this through a deep collaboration between many disciplines. We believe that beauty lies in simple elements, and that's the foundation of our design language. We wanted it to be simple, intuitive, and immersive.
When you look at the user interface, the look, the feel, and the behavior of that interface, and how it gets manifest in the hardware, it really feels unified now. We really have something that feels like it's designed together.
We don't want to interfere, we don't want to distract, we don't want to decorate. We want to make sure that you get easy access to the things that you care about in a very beautiful and delightful way. The relationships between tiles, content, typography, iconography are fundamental, and we're paying a lot of attention with every single pixel on the screen.
To me, the Kinect itself is one of the best examples I've ever seen of a hardware team and a software team working really well together. There's a really cutting-edge stack of technology that's being run constantly in order to make those algorithms work. Hundreds and hundreds of machines to try and figure out, what does this data mean? That fusion of really good technology and really complicated, interesting software stacks allows that magic to happen. We want to take advantage of them to bring the best possible experience to the new Xbox.
The talent and resources available to us at Microsoft are amazing. We've utilized just about every one of them in order to rapidly iterate, test, and make the Xbox One such a great gaming console and entertainment platform. These resources are priceless. They allow us to visualize, review, test, measure, evaluate, and create new designs faster.
We have to push the boundaries over and over again. The result is a truly magical experience that is crafted for you.
There's so many different disciplines that goes into Xbox One. Silicon, electrical, mechanical, thermal, optical, acoustic, industrial design, user interface, manufacturing, the list goes on. By working so close together, the entire team is able to understand how one element affects another. And this helps us do everything from making the best controller in the industry even better, to recognizing who you are, to creating a console that's whisper quiet. It's hard to imagine the complexity of technology and skill it takes to deliver something that appears to be so simple.
At Microsoft, we have amazing technology, but that's not important. What is really important is that you get the best possible experience ever.
It's all done for that reason. It's grounded in performance and functionality and brought to life through design and collaboration.
So what I wanted to talk about next was some of the considerations, the TV design considerations. So when you're developing for Xbox, you have to think into account when you're moving your Windows app to Xbox, you have to think about the snap views. The snap views are locked, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Safe zones, the hit targets, and font sizes. So I'll start with the views. If you're not familiar, Xbox has a full view mode. This is where the primary consumption mode, it takes up all of the screen real estate. And then we have two other views. So one is fill. We call that fill on the right side, and we call snap on the left. And the interesting thing, or the difference between Windows and Xbox, is that you can't resize that space today, and so that's just something you want to think about. Another thing is the safe areas. If you haven't developed for the TV before, there's these areas in there called, we call them safe zones, but you've got overscan, you've got action safe, and then you've got title safe. And so if you look on the outer ring, that's really overscan. And what happens on TV sometimes is that if the proportions aren't right, stuff that's in that darker orange area will actually get cut off. And so what we try to do is avoid any interactive elements in that space to make sure that users can still use the screen. The stuff that's actually in the lighter orange area is what we call action safe. And so that's just kind of a warning zone. You can place stuff there, but you want to be really careful. And then anything inside of that is title safe. And so that's really where you want your content to be. So we also do this when you go into go into safe, snap mode, and fill mode. And so it's just kind of quickly calling those out. Yeah, feel free to take a picture. So bigger hit targets. I've talked with our developers a little bit about this, and they've let me know that when you're going from Windows to Xbox, it's a little bit more difficult to port your app that way because of the density that Windows has and then the inputs. And so if you're thinking about Xbox applications, you have to think about the bigger hit targets. Rob Cameron had spoke earlier about some of the sizes. So actually, let me just go to the next slide. So thinking about our media playback experience, you see down below that I've actually invoked gesture, and you see that there's a large square around that. The reason why we have that large square is one, so that it's very easy for gesture. And then he also talked about that when your hands come down, you typically disengage. This is engage, this is disengage. And so since that's at the bottom of the screen, the larger targets actually is what you want to use to make sure that you don't disengage and you're still able to press those buttons down below. So it's just something you need to think about when moving your app from Windows to Xbox. Voice is another thing. We also keep that space so that we can have see it, say it. And so if you say Xbox Select, green tiles come up on the screen, and then you're able to say pause, rewind, forward, and stop listening. So font sizes. We talked about having one font earlier, and let me call out just a few things. Is that the minimum font size that we use is 18 point, and that's just to make sure that users can read it. There's kind of a in-house formula that we use, and we basically say that on a 32-inch TV, if you're standing 6 feet away, you have to be able to read it when it's at 1080p. And so that's kind of the rule that we use to kind of guide our designs, and we do that. You'll see us standing around, we'll test our designs, we'll put it on a key fob, just quickly check it, make sure but now we know that 18 is pretty much the minimum that you can go. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, I do a presentation last year. Our team went and did a bunch of developer summits, and I talked a lot about our media app templates and wireframes, and we'd be able to get those to you, I believe, if you needed them. But I just want to give you a quick summary of that. So what we've done is we've actually created media app template, media app samples, where we've actually taken all the levels of the UI and actually designed them. Me, Gersh, Stefan, several folks have worked hard on creating an experience that takes into account everything that I've just presented to you, in order to give that to you so that you don't have to start from scratch. You can actually take the media app template and put your content in, and then you saw that the Netflix, actually, I'll wait to share that a little bit. We have several app partners that have taken this. You're able to modify it and do things to make it suit your brand, to suit your needs. Yesterday, one of my colleagues talked about brand. I don't know if you were able to attend that session, but there's things you can do for Xbox as well that align with that. So there you were seeing the home page in the template. This is kind of another variation of the home page. What I'll do is let me go back for a second. So what we did is we created two versions. This version is the tab version. We know that some applications are pretty deep, and so we wanted to actually create a model that used the tab version. The next version is more of a hub. And so what we're doing is we're actually taking this hub and we're trying to align with Windows and Windows Phone so that our hub templates all work together, work as one. Here you see a details page, and so all of this stuff is available to you today. You see we've done a light theme if you want to start there. And so I wanted to show some of these samples in action. And so we work closely with Netflix. You see that they've taken the template, they started here, and what they did is they made it their own. They really wanted to have a flat UI in terms of showing more details up front. And so you see that they've got they've basically followed the template, but they've made it their own with their brand, their own background. They've even got their own profile tiles on the top left there. FX Now, they've done something really interesting where they've really made, they've used a template, but they made their images really large, and they actually changed the model that was pretty interesting. So what you do if you're using FX Now is that you can go down, and they have a set of tiles actually below that you can actually navigate to. But what they did is they followed the rules by peaking, and you can see that there's more content below to allow users to go down, but you can also move left and right. And so this was an area where they did some exploration. We talked a little bit back and forth, and we fully embrace like these kind of explorations. So there's a lot you can do. Fox Now, you see that they've done something pretty similar, but still a little bit different. They just go horizontally with theirs. And then Univision, they've taken the template kind of straight, but you see that it works pretty well in terms of showing scores, and then on the right side, giving you plenty of content to get into. And so I want to talk a little bit about what's next. I'm not going to share too much, but I wanted to share a little bit because our team's working right now on a responsive media app template. And when I say that, we're really trying to work with our Windows counterparts. We're trying to work with our phone counterparts. We're all one now, and so we're getting our heads together. And we're trying to come up with one template that serves your media purposes, that's going to be awesome, that you can use across all devices. And so you see what we're doing is we're starting here with what we've already created, and then we'll figure out how to make sure that all of the considerations are taken into account across devices, and we'll put that into the template. And that's going to be in the future. So, but I did want to kind of leave you with that. And that's my talk. Thank you for listening. I'll take questions. No, yeah, please, thanks. Yeah. True. True.
Is it really necessary to keep now? There's very, very few people that don't have pixel-based screens.
Well, if you're thinking US, that's true. But if you're thinking globally, you still have to take those things in consideration. So I know we're spoiled. We're spoiled here. The question is that we're moving to a world that won't have picture tubes. But I guess the answer is that we still need to consider other markets, and we're still, 360 is still vibrant and kicking as well. So.
I just want to comment on one thing you said, which made me, which startled me a little bit. So in the US, you said the TV is always on.
Yeah.
And in my home, it's almost never on.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of a different perception, probably. So,
yeah.
It just struck me as weird,
Yeah, that the TV's always
and that's
on.
why, it's just a comment, right? I think the fact that the TV is always on is just not true in most of the world, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. My team actually handles the design guidance for Xbox, and everything we do, it actually will have guidelines. Our team is, what was that? Yeah, so what I can do is I can refer you to our one of our dams to be able to get you that information. So yeah, just see me afterwards, and I can totally hook you up with that. Well, thank you for coming.